Howdy, howdy. This is Mr. Potter. In our previous lesson, we talked about how we can use if statements, how we can use conditional statements to run code based on whether or not a particular expression is true or false. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about the limitations of using these if statements and how we get around it. In particular, when we're working with objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare two objects. So I'm going to do string s1 gets new string, and it's going to contain capital H, lowercase e, lowercase l, lowercase l, o, close quotes, semicolon. And then I'm going to declare another string, s2 gets new string, and it's going to contain capital H, lowercase e, lowercase l, and o, close quotes. And what I want to know is if s1 is equal to s2, and if that's true, then I want to do system.out.println that they're the same. And if that's not true, then I want to system.out.println they're not the same. And I'm going to run this, and we get a shocking answer. It's going to tell us that these are not the same. You're thinking, well, I saw you type them in. They both have the same length. They both have the exact same characters. But what's happening here is when I create a new string, this creates a location in memory and puts that string in that location. When I create a second new string, it creates a second location in memory, which must be different from the first location, and puts a string called hello in there. And I'm actually checking if the location of memory for the first string is the same as the location of memory for the second string. And that's not the case here. So since they're not equal, then we jump down to the else because they're not at the same memory location, and we print out that they're not the same. That's an issue because clearly these are the same. And what I really want to check is not do they have the same memory location, but do they have the same contents? And so to access whether or not they have the same contents, we have to do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the Boolean expression here, and I'm going to ask if s1 dot equals s2. And so this is a method that s1 has that allows it to compare its value with s2's value. And if they have the same value, then it's going to return true. And if they don't have the same value, then it's going to return false. So now if I run this, it's going to say they're the same. Because at this point, because I'm using dot equals, it's actually checking for the value of the string rather than the memory location of the string. And that's one thing that you're going to have to remember when you're dealing with objects, dealing with any type that starts with this capitalized letter. Any objects that we have in Java, or any objects that we create from the classes that we create. And that is, if I want to see if they truly are equal, I can't use the equals. So I can't use the logical equal. What I have to do is I have to use dot equals to see if they contain the same data. So I'm going to change string 2 to say something like howdy. Now they clearly don't have the same contents. The data inside the strings aren't the same. And when I run this, then I'm going to get they're not the same, which obviously they aren't. I could even change this back to hello and ask if S2 is equal to S1. And if they contain the same data, then they should be, quote, equals. And so I should get the result that they're the same, as I do here. So that brings up one question, that if I want to test for the equality of objects, I have to use the dot equals method. The next thing is, well, if checking for equality using the relational equals operator gives us memory locations, what would happen if I wanted to compare? Let me change this back to howdy. If I wanted to compare them using inequalities. In other words, if I wanted to know if S1 was less than S2. And the simple fact is we can't do it. The thing is, if I look at my build output, it's going to tell me that I have a bad operand. I can't check equality or less than or equal or less than when I'm talking about two strings. I can't compare them this way. So because I can't compare S1 and S2 using the less than operator, I have to find a different method to do so. So I'm going to kind of skip over this, get rid of this code that I've typed already. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do system.out.println S1.compare to S2. And what this is going to do is it's going to compare S1 S1 to S2. And it compares in something which we call lexicographical order. Lexicographical order. In other words, alphabet order, dictionary order. So what it's going to do is it's going to compare the first letters. It compares a capital H with a capital H, and they're the same. Then it's going to compare the next letter. I've got a lowercase e, and I've got a lowercase o. And so if I look at lowercase e, so I've got F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. They're 10 letters apart. And E comes 10 letters before O. So if I run this, then what's going to happen is it's going to tell me how far apart they are. In this case, I get a negative 10 because these characters where they differ, the first position in which they're different, the E and the O, are 10 characters apart. And S1 comes 10 characters before S2. If I were to change this to S2 dot compared to S1, now I'm comparing howdy to hello. And when I run this, it's going to tell me that I'm 10 characters ahead. Howdy is 10 characters ahead of hello. If I were to change this to Howard, now the H matches, the O matches, the W matches, the D in howdy is the first character where they're different. And it's 3 characters ahead of the A in Howard. So if I run this, then I'll find that I get a 3 as my output. And so this is a clue as to how I can compare 2 strings to see if one comes after another one, or one comes before another one. So what I can do is I can go back to what I had before, is I could say if S1 dot compare to S2, if that is less than 0, then I would system.out.print line S1 comes first. And I can say else if S1 dot compare to S2 is greater than 0, then I can do system.out.print line S2 comes first. And I'm going to do one more else down here. Because if I reach this else, well, I'm neither less than nor am I greater than, so must be equal to. And in fact, if I'm dealing with words that are truly equal, they have the same contents, then they're not going to differ in any position. And so the difference between the letters is 0. And so what will happen is I will system.out.print line S1 and S2 are equal. So I'm going to go ahead and run this code. And of course, Howard comes before howdy, so S1 comes first. If I change this to hello, now hello comes before howdy, so S1 comes first. If I change this to hello, then S1 and S2 are equal. If I change this to hello there, then what's happening is it's checking this character by character by character by character, and here's the first place where they differ. Here, my Unicode value is 0. It's essentially null because there's nothing after that O. Here, my Unicode character is 32 because the Unicode character for a space is 32. And if I were to print out the compareTo result, I would get a negative 32. And so, of course, that means that S1 comes first. Now, this compareTo is not as accepted as the equals. The equals will work with any object, but in order for compareTo to work, it has to implement something called the comparable interface. In other words, I have to give specific code that tells me how do I actually compare two objects. How do I compare them and give a numerical value? Because notice this is not a Boolean expression. This is a number. And I have to compare it to 0. If I put that in there, I'm actually going to get an error because it's going to tell me that I'm got an incompatible type. It's expecting a Boolean, but it found an integer. So if I use compareTo, I have to make sure that I'm using a relational operator relating it to a number, preferably an int, because compareTo returns an int. If I'm just doing dot equals, then I'm going to be checking to see if they are the same contents, and that is a Boolean expression. It's either true or it's false. So what we're going to do in our next lesson is we're going to talk about how do we actually deal with this dot equals and dot compare to? How do we write this for classes so that we know their contents truly are the same? So once again, this is Mr. Potter. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.